Welcome to the 561 show. I am excited to go through some local businesses that are consistently advertising. And we're going to go through and kind of dissect some of their marketing campaigns, some of the stuff you may see on social, some of the brands, the iconic brands that you may notice being, in the local market here, and what they're doing differently than maybe you're doing in your business. And we're looking forward to just jumping in and kind of, dissecting it, sharing our insights. As a local marketing company that focuses on the local business here, we want to make sure that we're giving you the best value so you can see how you can improve your business. And you don't necessarily have to do what some of them, which I don't want to give it away, but some of them may be doing, but out in the marketplace that are spending big dollars on billboards and massive marketing campaigns. But there's little things you could do to be unique and different to stand out in your marketplace. So we're excited to get started, and Michael's going to give us some critiques as well, right?
We'll go through the good, the bad, the ugly, and even when the ugly works.
Right, exactly. All right, so go ahead and hit that video there. You all may be familiar with this brand.
I'm back.
You mean we're back? Now let's terminate some termites. There are two types of homes, those that have termites.
And those that will.
Even concrete homes aren't safe from termites. Hullet is the no-tent specialist. Visit bugs.com and protect your home.
Tell your termites.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Just call Hullet.
Just call Hullet.
So you may have seen this commercial running in our local market here, right? And what I love about what Hullet does, right, is that he takes, his real life character, right, and does something so unique and different, right? And to the point where, like, that actually got me as a client.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Not just once, but twice, right? So at the business and also at our home, because we had a termite issue, and I was driving along 95 every day, and I'm like, why am I not calling that guy, right? You could see his billboards. He's been advertising for years. He's obviously good at what he does, right? And so and he's unique and doing something, that stands out, right? So obviously the guy's doing very well for himself. He's figured out some things in the marketing world, right, to differentiate.
I mean, he's definitely one of the, you have to start with making lemons into lemonade.
Yeah.
Of all the individuals, right? I mean, going from, obviously, from seeing him, he's memorable.
Right.
Sticks out, which is a good one. He's obviously taken everything from the main conscious in pop culture, Terminator, termites. He's done a great job with really everyone that he does. He's got about, I think he runs around 7 or 8 campaigns at a time.
Right.
All of which stick with you
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons. And
Yeah.
again, he realized one thing, right? It's that he sticks out and he puts himself in the forefront and does a great job with it.
Right. And jokingly, like, I probably wouldn't put on a Terminator costume, right, and do that, right? Like, it wouldn't make sense for me, right? But I'm sure I could do something, that would make me stand out, be a little different. But, the reality is like, what's different between him and any other pest control company that's out there in the marketplace right now, right? There's a lot of big ones in our area, but I would venture to say he's probably the largest, right? Because, the amount of billboards that this guy has, local marketing that's going on, television, radio, like, the guy's everywhere, right?
I mean, he's willing to make himself the butt of the joke, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's the idea. Sometimes when you can take away from being so serious, it reminds people that it's just bugs.
Right.
End of the day, like, we're not sitting here curing cancer. It may be great to get rid of them, but in the day, it's just bugs. And what he does is he sticks out. They do a phenomenal job. Good shoot. One of the rare ones for a local business that the commercial is actually good.
Right.
Right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not-
Sometimes they're a little stiff. They kind of look like they were done in the 70s.
What
right?
was the what was the one guy? Did you ever see the RV guy? The RV sales one?
No.
I can't remember if the language is bad. I'll proof it. If it's not, I'll cut it in.
Right.
But he's maybe one of the all-time greatest sellers. Usually what you see, any of the good local marketing is kind of funny.
Right.
Right? I mean, they always play an edge. Outside of him, there's the AC, air around the clock.
Right.
Wife's hot.
Yeah, Your Wife is Hot campaign.
Yeah.
Right. Another famous one in the local area.
Don Bailey.
Yeah.
The one where it's just years of him changing the same, wearing the Speedo, laying out. It's
Right.
shot over 50 years.
Right.
Everyone. And so it really is something where it's, if you can get out of your own comfort zone and make it something that's memorable that people will come back for, that's really your job in marketing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember
And
when
notice, like, like if you, as you get ready to go to the Google page there, Gianni, right? so that we can show the, kind of like what you would type in when you're looking for, a pest control person, right? Or a termite, if you have termite issues, right? When you have market domination, right? When you have a persona that's attached to it, like, what Hewlett has, and then you have, obviously excessive marketing going on in all forms of media, right? Not everybody has that. So if you were to look at, somebody typing in the words pest control, right, you'll notice the local service ads are first, right? And then you want to chime in on that.
Yeah. I mean, I think what it does is, right, we always look for bottom of the funnel. Our job in marketing is to make sales very easy, right? It's a component of it. If we can get somebody who's completely, there again, hit the desk. If we can get somebody who's completely in the know of what they're about to get into and choose, it's an easier sell process, right? And that's the ones that if marketers are good, somebody who's reaching out is ready to buy, get into them. That's where Hewlett does a great job, but he's more in that prospecting larger impression base. But when you're dialing Hewlett, you know what you're doing right away. The digital end of that is this, right? You look, Pest Control, Boca Raton, we know exactly what they want.
Right.
If you pop up there and you're selling pest solutions, good chance you're going to get some sales out of it. So it's kind of two different ways of really looking at dominating the market. And if you're getting into something as a newer business or a smaller marketing budget, you really need to choose one or the other. Unless you got, 50 grand a month, you want to roll out right away, 50 to 100, you need to pick one that's going to get you that same bottom funnel result. And it's really hard to build a brand in a month, 6 months. So we know where the best place to really go is, and that's kind of what we're looking at now. That Gianni's in there pulling down. You want to give them a tour of what we're looking at? The first one's the local service ads. This is that new Google guaranteed side of it. These guys are using the message format as well as the phone call only. But as you can see, Hewlett's 3. The top 2 are paying for advertisements directly out. The other ones are kind of your next best solutions. And what they're doing is they're dialing directly to the customer. The customer's dialing, to the client. But the guaranteed end is nice. Google does back, I think for pest control, it's around $2,000. So if they do something and it doesn't work, you don't have to go and start arguing with the pest control company. You just call Google and say, hey, they didn't give these services, X, Y, and Z, and then you can handle. They get it back to them on that end. So there's a lot of good that comes out of this. A, for protecting the customer, but also good for the companies who are stand up and deliver the product.
Right.
They have something that's backed as well. So
Yeah,
that's
and,
nice.
And I can tell you, like, there's a lot of, it's not just here in South Florida, but I'm sure other states have this problem, where business owners just don't deliver at the highest possible value, right? Or they do manipulative things, or they just don't have the best practices, right? I can say with Hewlett being a client, I know for sure that their customer experience was second to none, right? Like literally, the guy, I called him on a Saturday. He was at my house first thing Monday. They were servicing by the next day, right? So and they had everything dialed in. It was impressive, right? Because they deliver such a superior service, right? They're able to obviously retain clients and do all of the other things because they have the cash flow consistently coming in, right, to support all the other stuff that they're doing, right? To support their marketing campaigns and keep feeding the machine, right? So it's fascinating to me to see companies like that and others like it in our area here that are dominating the marketplace in unique ways. You don't have to go do crazy commercials. I mean, nowadays you could do things with video with your just with taking out your phone, right? And here's another thing I'll say is like nowhere on there does it say like second generation, established and like nobody cares, right? Like nobody cares about that stuff. What they care about, especially with Google, search intent, right? Is they're looking for in this case, my case it would be looking for termite, resolution, right? Or termite, eliminate termites, right? And avoid tenting, right?
Yeah. I mean, it always comes down to, right? I always wonder that second generation stuff that people actually put up. And I guess somewhat in the years in business do matter quite a bit with it. You want to deal with somebody who's been 15, 20 years. Right? Those types of things. But it is always funny when they do this second generation call to actions. It probably is more based on what industry you're in. I mean, because it is a little different than it's like pest solutions, as long as you got the...
Yeah, it's not that it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
It's just the fact that like when you only have so much real estate in advertising, right?
Exactly.
So it's like you don't want to waste it with stuff like you want very specific things that are going to get that client, their potential prospect, to click and take the action, right? Whether it's to call you, go on your website and submit a form.
Johnny, you want to scroll those down a little bit too, just so we can see that on there? Because these are the different. This is where it gets a little. What you were just saying is right. That's the art of it. I think you're still stuck. You can. There should be a net. Keep going down. Yep, perfect. There you go. This is where you get those second generations on all of our writing. The second side of the paid advertising, which looks a little longer down now because we expanded out that Google guarantee side. But as you can see now, this is where you get everybody who does a horrendous job of writing. The more AI that takes over, it just plugs in whatever they think works for you, which is never right.
Yeah. So as you progress with your marketing campaigns, right? The key here is consistency and differentiation, right? I was fortunate that when I was in high school, I had a marketing professor that he was a professor at a local college. And the biggest thing he instilled in me was differentiation, right? Is, what's going to make you stand out, right? In anything. So when I had construction business, related businesses, I always did something different that made me unique and different than everybody else. And I stood out. So if you were to look at what you're currently doing in your marketing, there's always room for improvement, right? Even Hulett has his issues, right? There's things he's always improving, but obviously he's been at it a long time, right? He's been doing a tremendous job doing what he's done, right? And he's figured out some things. He's got obviously creative people around him to help him come up with some of the stuff he's come up with for the campaigns that he has to stand out. So if you're to look at like what could you do differently to stand out and dominate your marketplace, and outdo what your competitors may be doing, to me there's never any competition. Yes, there are people out there that do what you do, right? But the reality is no one does it like you, right? And you're not, your competitor might not be the right person for, whatever the service or product is that you offer. Someone else might be a better fit for them. So, and that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it goes down like the differentiating. We used to, in like art appreciation and anything you've ever, when you either want to be like loved or hated.
Right.
You ever heard that idea? Mm-hmm. It's like so much of the 80, 90% of actual people just fall in this middling ground where you're like, well, how's that looking? You're like, yeah, it's fine.
Right.
And nothing's worse than when you hear, when we're doing advertising, there's nothing I hate worse than when the customer's like, it's okay, yeah, we can use that. And you're like, all right, well, that's going to get nothing anywhere, right? You either usually get it one of two ways, right? It's either the design sticks out, do something that's a little crazy, or it's some form of the call to action, like you mentioned before. Do something that people remember. You remember Hulett for a few different reasons, right? When you see his stuff, but when you're looking up pest control, I don't think I even looked online. We just called him.
Right.
I just went to his website and just called him in for the office. Like, yeah, come in.
Right.
Do it monthly, right? He already achieved that bottom funnel with his brand name, which is hands down the most valuable thing you can do, right, for an industry. And most people, because of their marketing approach, and some are afraid to take that step where they want to be outside of it and say things that are going to be a little outlandish or whatever, right? Or something that's funny. When they're like, well, we don't do funny work. It's like, it'd be of a divorce lawyer.
Right.
You ever seen the ones who actually are funny about their divorces? They do well for it. Yeah, it's not for everybody, but guess what? Their niche that's in there, people remember when they need it.
Right.
You get some referrals and reviews. It works quite a bit. And I think that's something where in the marketing sense, again, you have to do something in today's market that's there. And it's not just, put up some ads and let them run. And, if people see it, we do the best service. Well, I can tell everybody I do the best service time over time and have reviews, but I still need them to call me and remember who we are outside of it. So, if you're not doing those things, you don't have a marketing agency that's helping or somebody internally who's on creatives like that, then you're always going to be kind of chasing an uphill battle. That's something that we see a lot on our side.
And and if you think about the call to action with what Hulett does, right, is, the jingle as well, right? Yeah. Just call Hulett, right? I must have heard that at least 1,000 times over the past 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Right? And like, it's ingrained subconsciously in your head. And you think about the number of ads that we see, right? In the sales world, we say like it takes 5 to 12 contacts before you create a sale, right? Yeah. In the case of like Google ads, that's not necessarily always the case, right? Because the intent is there, right? Someone's actually searching for what you have to offer, right? Versus like advertising on Facebook, it's kind of like watching TV and all of a sudden someone's trying to interrupt you, right?
Yeah. It's a big difference on it. And that's the nice thing, again, get bottom funnel as soon as possible. That's what we would like to do on all of them, but it's a lot harder for others to achieve that. And most people will never achieve it from a branding side, they're always going to need these other elements to them, or business development teams or people who are outreaching. But the one thing that you look at, some of the largest companies in the world that we know as direct to consumer, if you're in that at all, is you've got to start protecting your brand and getting it out. And it's not always necessarily fun to spend thousands of dollars on display ads and going, well, what does it get us? Or, what's the, if we're doing over the top for a TV and we're on YouTube running ads, it's not always a direct one-to-one correlation.
Right.
I mean, it's even if you looked at traditional media, it's like if you're on the front of Forbes magazine, there's no click through to tell you, hey, that's how I got to you, right? There's no way for us to attribute that as a sell, but we know it's doing something.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's kind of like the same thing as what we're doing here,
Yeah.
right? Is like, our role here is to, serve the local market, right? And we can add value a couple different ways, right? One, as a client, one, just giving you the information to go do something, right, on your own. And we've done our job. Obviously, we'd love for you to become a client. Right?
Yeah.
Right. But at the same time, it's not for everybody. But if you were to look at like any of the top brands that are out there, right, in our marketplace, just noticing the difference, because I get it. You're busy. You're running a business, right? There's a lot of moving parts, especially with all the things on social media, and where we see most businesses lacking. And this is, evident of what happened, a few short years ago when the world went crazy, right? is the businesses that were not set up to function online struggled, right? And there was one of two things that happened. They either didn't make it, or they struggled through it, or they got to a point where they figured out some things on how to monetize online and how to generate, more traffic, more leads, more business online, and leverage the online systems that are there. So it was a wake-up call for a lot of local type businesses that were not positioned to be online. And there's still some that are, still antiquated. There's a lot of, old school websites, old school marketing tactics, not using social media, not using paid ads, right? There's a lot of that out there still, right? But,
I mean, it's tons, right? I mean, Google just got rid of their free websites essentially for all these individuals who only had the Google My Business platform. I mean, and there was hundreds of thousands of businesses who operate basically off the grid on referrals,
Right.
And they use those for them. I would imagine if we even asked them, like 65% of them don't even know their site's gone, right? And they're still out doing business, which is fine, obviously, for it. But at some point, when are you extending beyond that and trying to do more? And it's always one of these things like, yes, marketing's hard. Marketing's not, it's a fun business, but it also isn't fun at times, right? I mean, it's getting over that hump. It's kind of the idea of if you're not doing something, you're doing nothing. And, you can always you can live off referrals. You can do, good equity in the community and people come back around to you, but you're always missing probably a larger point of where you could actually be long-term, right? Because if you're able to get new customers, they're going to turn into more referrals. They're going to turn into other things. So it's kind of that idea of compounding interest on referrals that people miss, right? You're compounding by the more customers you do if you do a good job, and those are just going to spin off to what you do today, right? At a higher rate and a higher clip. So there's a lot of different things in marketing that I think people look at it and they get bad taste in their mouth. They've been down and said, well, I had a nephew who was going to do the SEO for me and ran out. It's like, yeah, I mean, if I had my truck and was like, yeah, listen, I've got my cousin who decides to work on it today.
Right.
I'm not getting around a lot of places. I'm going to be on the bright line probably more than I would actually like be driving up and down. So it's kind of the right thing is, you get marketing is one of the rare things you get it out what you put into it.
Right.
And if you just put in, bare minimum, you're going to get bare minimum or worse and have it. So it is something, no matter which way you go, I think it's important to have a few things, right? You need a strategy in place. You need to know what you want to get out of it.
Right.
And then build something to attribute that and find it. And if those individuals that you have doing it just say they simply can and can't show you anything as results, probably a good idea to,
Right.
maybe get them somebody to lean on a little bit as well if needed,
Yeah.
or hiring somebody outside of what you're currently doing.
Yeah, well, this reminds me of a simple story, right? That you want to hire the right person to do the job, right? And somebody that has experience, right? So years ago, I had a Ford Expedition, right? Right, and it was hesitating, right? And one of my buddies used to be a mechanic, like 20 years earlier, right? And he says, go get the spark plugs. We'll change them ourselves, right? And I'm sitting there like I hadn't worked on a vehicle in probably 10 plus years, right? And I used to do some of that stuff, but like not my thing, right? And lo and behold, the first spark plug breaks, right? And what was interesting was the first thing I did was Google Ford Expedition 5.4 Triton engine, spark plugs. And the first thing that came up was a YouTube video. Warning, do not change spark plugs without this tool, right? And I was like, uh-oh. So long story short, there actually was a class action suit against Ford for this, right? It was a two-part plug that they had, and for some reason. But the reason I'm sharing this is because one of the spark plugs actually fell down to the engine. It cost me $7,000 for something that should have cost me about $150 for a tune-up, right?
Yeah.
right. So hiring the right person. So I want you to think about this too. In this case of this story, right? Yes, it cost me thousands of dollars, but it's costing your business tens of thousands of dollars in future income when you don't have the right person helping you, to do some of these things, right? So whether it's us or some other local marketing company that fits, or you have someone that you build, internally to making sure they have the right, tools and resources to actually grow. The problem is most of the time that's not the case. It's literally an admin person that's like, oh yeah, well I can learn how to run the Facebook ads, right? Or I can learn how to do this. And that's great if that's where you're at, right? But if you're struggling with lead quality, you're struggling with sales, because let's face it, the biggest challenge that I see, and I've had thousands of conversations with business owners over the past 20 plus years, right? The biggest challenge I see is people will come to me and think that they have a lead problem, right? And the lead problem is usually not the only problem, right? There's usually a sales problem. There's probably a product or a service problem. There's a follow-up problem. There's, a lot of other issues that we uncover to do a full audit on your business. So it's not just about running Facebook ads, right? Or Google ads. There's a layers upon layers, like an onion, to peel away to really get to the root of what's going on so that we can best, produce the right leads and then help streamline the rest of the processes.
Yeah, and I think people just kind of look at it sometimes that they're small businesses, so how can we, I can't address all that. I'm going to need an EOS to do all those things. And they're scared to do it because we're running fine now.
Right.
Business is fine. But in reality, it's, you need to put those stressors on business to actually grow, right? It's no different than if you're working out. How else do you grow muscle? You put it under constraint, right? Then it builds and it gets stronger. Same essence in businesses. And in order to get it better as a business, you need to uncover those things and correct those small issues. And marketing is the easiest way to do it, right? You get in 50 leads. Well, how many of them sold? Where did they go to? Did you call track them? Are we listening to the calls to see how they're going? There's a quick way that you can really find these things out. And the best way is just stress test it in that regard. So it's not so much, that you have to know all those things going into it. What you can do is streamline and make them better when they're under constraint. And that's something that I think people miss about marketing and do a good job with, or need to do a better job is understanding it brings more value. Marketing is the top, including sales, right? Sometimes we break it outside of it, I think, too much. And we touched on it before. Marketing is, when it's doing its best, people are just buying.
Right.
And it's eliminated the entire deal. It says they know what they want. They want your product and they're ready to purchase. That's an ideal world for anybody. Now you're just, if you're a home service, you got to go on site, make sure it's right, get them a quote. Hell, you guys can close them there. Right. There's a lot of different ways that marketing itself works. And it's important to have somebody who understands that, I think, fully. And it's, it's kind of a lost art as we're getting kids who go to school for marketing. And then you really see at the end of the day, it's not what marketing looks like.
Right.
It's those types of things. Like, they went and I paid $50,000 to $100,000 for them to learn marketing. You hate to tell them like that.
Yeah. Things change.
And
things change so quick in the online world today that it's not even just about what you learn in a textbook. It's like real world application, like Facebook ads, Google, YouTube, like all these different platforms change on a regular basis. Always new features. They take away features. There's something always changing. So, I think, we covered quite a bit there, right? Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, if you're looking for growth opportunities for your business, we're perfectly happy to have you, just submit some information on our website, and we will do a full audit for you at no cost, right? And see how we could best serve you.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay.
Fill it out.
That's a wrap.
See you guys.
Living on a train with the big cuts.